Iconic, maybe even legendary, tactical folding knives. That's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to the podcast. Hopefully we keep God Almighty at the center, biblical Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience on that military, law enforcement, private security, contracting, and some other stuff, bio bullet points in the show notes. Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and fingers for battle. So as you might imagine from that bio, I've been in the tactical game a long time. Praise God, I'm still here to talk about it, share experiences and knowledge with you. Now, knives are a part of that. They're a big part of that, both in practical use and in culture, the tactical culture. So there are some that stand out. Now, this is by no means an extensive list. Like, obviously, some people are going to have outliers or specific, different knives. And obviously, a lot of times in combat, we're going to have a fighting fixed blade knife and or bayonet attached to our gear. But even with that, just because of convenience and other uses, a lot of times military will have a folding knife in their pocket or on their belt or something like that. Many times in law enforcement, their go-to will be a folding knife in the pocket. Now, I may do an entirely separate one on a similar to this to fixed blades, because a lot of people prefer fixed blades, myself included nowadays. But there was a time when I also carried like a go-to tactical folder. Anyway, some of these have kind of grown in status and reputation and are a mainstay and have been for a while. I'm not going to talk about like what's so hot right now so much. I want to talk about ones that have proven street cred. And the one that got me thinking about this is the S.R.T M16 line. These have been around a long time. I'm not sure exactly when, but as long as I can remember, or almost as long as I can remember, at least going back to the 2000s, mid-2000s-ish, maybe a little bit later, maybe 2010s, but I don't remember, but a long time. These have been kind of a mainstay for tactical guys, especially a good quality, affordable option. The M16, I don't know what the original model was, but it has spawned a plethora of variants. You can get them in a more traditional blade shape. You can get them in a Tonto. You can get them partially serrated. You can get the big giant versions. They may still be called the M16. They may be called something else. But the M16 line, many law enforcement military guy has had a S.R.T M16 in their pocket. Take your pick, what flavor, what color, what blade profile. I'm sure they've had different steels over the years. They're a good knife. They're not dirt cheap. They're not a gas station knife. They're also not several $100s. They're a good, all-around, good quality knife. And this is actually what sparked this idea. One of the guys in the chat that we have for the podcast, he said he just got one and posted it. And I was like, man, yeah, those things have been around a long time. The S.R.T M16 and all the variants thereof. There's a bunch of them. That's a great knife. And if you're looking for a good one, then that's a good place to start looking. That's what got me started on this. Kind of iconic, and they have kind of a hand guard, good for tactical stuff, and good for flipping the knife open. It's not mechanically assisted or anything. I don't know if they have any of those variants. Very iconic handle with like the holes, the circular holes in it. Very, very iconic. Okay, moving on. The one that I carried for a very long time, had several different variants of it. The first knife I ever bought was like super steel, a very, very good knife. The Gerber 06 Auto series. These are fantastic knives. Gerber makes some really cheap knives. They also make some really good, high-quality, American-made super steel knives. These are the latter. The Gerber 06 Auto. They make some other variants that are a little bit cheaper that are not auto. They make them with different steels, I think, but the classic one is S.R.T or S.35V or VN. One of those variants is super steel. First super steel knife I ever had, and I was amazed. Before that, I was like, oh, it's kind of a gimmick super steel. It's not worth it. Then I got one, and I was like, oh, totally worth it. Super steel for an EDC knife, totally worth it if you want the extra performance. It's not a gimmick. Super steel is actually super. I've had different variants. I've had the Tonto, I've had partially serrated, I've had just a straight edge. If you're going to have a folder as a defensive knife, and you can have an auto, because in a lot of places autos are more restricted than having a handgun, believe it or not. Like carrying a loaded handgun, I believe, unless they change it in California on you without a permit, it's a misdemeanor. But carrying an automatic knife is a felony. So again, I know that sounds kind of crazy, but look up Penal Code 12020 if you don't believe me. So if you can have an auto and you can't have a gun for whatever reason, if you're looking for a folding fighting knife, the Gerber 06 Auto is built like a tank. One of the things I did to mine, the spring that opens it up, it's decent, but you can get heftier ones. You can disassemble and put in a heftier spring so it gives that real thwack, that authority, and holds it open. Another thing about that knife is that it has a safety on it, so you can lock it closed or you can lock it open. So there's very little chance it's going to fold over on your fingers. It obviously locks on its own, but it has an additional lock, so like a double lock. You can lock it open or closed. That's a nice thing to have. The Gerber 06 Auto come in different colors. Again, it comes in a Tonto, comes in a more traditional blade style, partially serrated if you want it. A good utilitarian all-around folding knife. Again, it's going to be an auto, but a phenomenal. Again, if you want a fighting knife as a folding knife, that's probably my number one choice. Just built like a tank, fast to deploy for a non-fixed blade knife. So a fantastic knife, really durable. I can't imagine breaking one. Just they're a bit heavy, but they're a good knife. Perhaps another legendary one that may be the top as far as like go-to tactical cool guy folders that have been there a long time. The Spyderco Para series. The Spyderco Para series has been around a long time. There's much like the M16, there's a bunch of variants of it, more than I even know. They're good knives. They're light as opposed to the Gerber 06 Auto. They're quite a bit lighter than that. I imagine they're probably even lighter than the M16. They're a light knife, so if that's a top criteria, they're very slicey, thin blades, but still strong. Very simple. I don't know if they have any assisted opening ones, but the ones I'm thinking of are just regular knives. They've got that big circle that Spyderco is known for to flick the knife open if you practice with that. But really nothing wrong with this knife other than I think they're just butt ugly. And beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I just think they're some of the ugliest knives ever. Nothing against Spyderco. Like, they're good knives. I just think they're ugly. If you don't think they're ugly and you like the look of the Spyderco, they're a good knife. They're a good, solid knife. With all the variants of the Para, they'll come in different steels depending on the steel quality that you want. But yeah, Spyderco's got a good reputation. I'm not knocking them as being functional and a good knife. They are certainly all those things. Functional, good quality, sleek. They're good for that. I just think they're ugly. Nothing against that. So the Spyderco Para, a bunch of different variants of that knife. Different sizes. So if you're looking for a good, lightweight, simple, tactical folder, that Spyderco Para, that's a good one. Now, this knife became really a kind of hashtag thing, like, oh, look, me too, I've got one. Especially in the middle of the GWAT when all these guys started. The tactical look du jour was a bald head, shaved, a giant beard, some kind of like flannel shirt or something, and a zero tolerance knife in the pocket. That was like what was trending. Probably about a decade ago now. Like, somebody decided that's what a tactical operator looks like, although not really in real life, but like influencers and stuff for the big guys, like that was a thing. Shaved head, giant beard, flannel shirt, some kind of tactical jeans, an oxymoron if I ever heard one, and a zero tolerance knife in the pocket. if you were super cool, zebra stripe, because somebody decided that zebras were tactical in that time frame. But nothing against the knife. Zero Tolerance made some good knives. They were, again, kind of iconic for a short time. Some people still have them. There's nothing wrong with the knife. They're a good knife. Nothing super tactical about the knife. They're fairly basic. Nothing crazy special about them. Good steel, good knives. They just became like the trendy thing to have. People still have them. They're a good knife. And if you want to be super tactical, be a zebra and get the zebra striped one. But the Zero Tolerance series of knives. Also, Benchmades. Now, I think it was like the Griptilian. That was a good one. The newer versions of these, although not probably around long enough to make the list, but the kind of evolution of these are the Benchmade Bug Out and the Benchmade Bailout. And a Benchmade Bailout is kind of not my everyday carry, but I usually carry a good size fixed blade knife, EDC. But that's like my ultralight running knife is a lot of times it's going to be a Benchmade Bailout. But the earlier versions of that were probably the Griptilian and the Osborne. Much like Benchmade stuff, as you might know, fairly spendy, fairly high on the cost list for these. But very good knife, very proven, very reliable. A Benchmade that was kind of like the creme de la creme if you wanted a really nice knife in your pocket, a tactical folder. And they're still that way. They're still great knives. They still make, I think, the Griptilian and the Osborne. The Bug Out and the Bailout are the newer versions of that. And then the other one that I thought of was the Cold Steel Recon. These have been around a while. Cold Steel Recon, I believe, come in different steels. They come in regular or Tonto. I think Cold Steel may have been one of the ones that like introduced the Tonto style. To give credit, I think where it's due, Cold Steel kind of reintroduced the Tonto. Obviously, it's a fairly ancient design, but introduced it into modern American tactical market. I could be wrong about that, but at least from my memory, they were the first ones to kind of make it a resurgence. So the Cold Steel Recon, that's a good knife. As Cold Steel goes, very good, high quality. They're made in Taiwan, I believe. I don't know if any of them are made in America, but classically Taiwan. Taiwan is not China. They make decent stuff. So the Cold Steel Recon, been around a while, a mainstay. Also, like the M16, a very good value if you want a good solid knife without a lot of money. If you're hard on your stuff, going to chip your blade, or abuse stuff, they're a good solid knife. Now, again, there probably are some more. But this is not an exhaustive list, just ones that I remember as being tactical folders. And again, maybe I'll do, if you guys like this, maybe I'll do another one on fixed blades. But tactical folders, they've been a mainstay in the tactical community for a long time. So if there's one you really think that I miss, not just because you carry it, but it's actually like a classic, iconic tactical folder, let me know. If you want to reach me, Patreon's the best way. Even if you don't sign up, you can probably find a free post on there, like vote for content. I do a lot of those and try to remember to put them out for free, voting for what you guys want to hear about. Also, I'm still a private security contractor. We are right now working mandatory overtime a lot. So as you might imagine, I'm not going to get too specific, but with everything going on in the world, things are a bit hectic and our op tempo is up. For reasons, right? So I hope you'll forgive some of the audio quality. You might hear some wind in this one. I hope you'll forgive that, the clicks and the pops and the foibles in the audio. I'm trying to get content out to you guys. The show must go on. And I hope you'll forgive the audio quality for the quality of the content. I appreciate you guys. If you want to support, American-made, locally sourced, small business, all the hashtag buzzwords, whatever, veteran operated, veteran, employees number one, all the stuff. If you want to support the podcast, check out Patreon. If you're not going to do that, at least like, subscribe, leave a review, share the podcast. I'd appreciate that. I appreciate you guys. Tactical tip of the day on folders. If you're going to carry a folder, I hope you're carrying a gun on your hip day to day because you're a man and you live in America and you should do that. Probably, unless you have some good reason not to. And a good reason is not the HR lady, right? But anyway, off that soapbox. If you're carrying a fighting handgun, it's probably on your strong side hip. So on your support side, that's probably where you should carry your folding knife, i.e. like I carry a fighting handgun on my right side because I'm right-handed, and I carry my defensive knife on my left side so that if I'm, injured on one side or somebody's on top of me beating my head into the curb and that gun is pinned down between my body and the ground and I can't get to it or whatever reason, I have a defensive option on my other side. So you do some ground fighting and stuff with, training knives and training pistols, you'll figure that out. But if you haven't heretofore done that, consider carrying it on your other side. Even if you're right-handed, it may seem like a bit of an inconvenience, but it's actually, I think, a tactical advantage to have a defensive knife on your other side. So consider that. That's your tactical tip of the day. Your tactical verse of the day. We do this one all the time, but it's a classic. We're talking about classic knives. Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and fingers for battle. Psalm 144. Thanks for listening, and have a blessed day.